How's everybody?
Great.
Good.
How you doing?
I'm tired.
Can you say that in all caps, please?
Yeah, I'm fucking tired. Piper at the gates of dawn.
All right.
Oh. Um, how many years did you take that? Yeah, try this. Not really good?
No, I said I'm not really going to do that.
Oh, no, that's not what I was implying. I was more interested in your ballet life.
No, but I just kept looking over like, oh, ballet.
I've dated 2 ballerinas, did you know that?
No. Oh, I know but the one,
But the second one I dated knew the first one. That was pretty interesting.
That's a small community.
And one was in Washington and one was in California.
Oh,
Was there also an overlap? It's a true story.
True story. It's all in the book. How are you going to get ballerina interrogated?
I'm going to get ballerina interrogated?
Well, later, you know. The secret, that's a good song title, The Secret Life of Ballerinas. Yeah.
Maybe I'll write a book too.
You can't know, that can't be in your Cold and Lovely.
Yeah.
Or You guys could have a Secret Life of Ballerina song. And I can have a secret, and we see which one's better.
Oh, I
A
get
little
it.
competition.
Ballerina competition.
Yeah.
Billy, I just wanted to say, I love the epic, huge jams. I love the stripped down tracks too. When you're writing, and maybe even more when you're recording, how do you know when a song's done?
I never feel like a song's done, honestly. It's always a weird thing to commit, because it brings up a lot of well, I wanted the song to be like this, and now it's like this. So I don't know. I never feel like, it's done. It's more like you just move on. That's the best way to say it. It's kind of just like move on. But it's a good question. I don't know. I don't know. It's tough. Sometimes, we'll sit there in the studio and listen to something, and you just kind of sit back and go, I guess there's nothing else. It's a weird feeling because you're so determined, and it's like, that's it. And we work now less, like in the Butch Vig kind of era, because of money and time. We work very systemically: drums, bass, guitars, vocals. So you didn't have a lot of flexibility. If you didn't like something, it was like, well, it's too late. It was very rare that we'd go back and redo something if we thought we'd missed the mark, because you're so working professionally. But now we work kind of we'll work very amorphously, so something can be in a certain state for a while, and then we'll just basically scrap it all, because we learned something, and then we'll do a totally different version. So there's a lot of that. What else?
Aaron with 2 A's. Oh, that's me. Hi.
Hey.
Thought I was called. I'm just thinking when you're, let's say you're 80, 85, and you're looking back over...
I'm almost there right now.
when you're looking back over your career, where do you want the Pumpkins' legacy to be?
That's a good question. Well, right now, it's not even close to what I would want it to be. I think rock and roll has historically taught people that bands they're a momentary thing. And it kind of made sense in a world that was treated those cycles in a proprietary way. For example, there's the famous story, and I just read Pete Townshend's book, there's this famous story where he's, and people have different versions of the story, but the general version of the story is Pete's in a bar drunk, and the Sex Pistols there, and he's fucking with him, he's going, "Who are you?" And then the next day he writes that song, "Who are you?" And of course, the Sex Pistols went this way and the Who went that way, right? But the Who basically considered themselves a punk band, but there's this, it's like considered this kind of apocryphal passing of the torch moment, right? Well, no one ever foresaw in those times that you would have the changes in the music business where it's almost impossible to create a new brand name. No one would have foreseen when Pete sang, or had Roger sing, "Hope I Die Before I Go." They never thought that the Who would have a shelf life where into their 60s people still want to see the Who. They would have thought that was an impossibility. That nobody would want to think that. So we're coming off the transitional edge of a mentality that says bands cannot endure, right? Oh, it's, this classic lineup of this band, I don't want to see this band. Yet what we've seen over the last 10 years is Deep Purple's out touring with, who would have thought Deep Purple could be successful touring without Richie Blackmore? Who would think Journey could be a successful touring without Steve Perry? We've seen where the public has decided, if they like a band, that the music ultimately maybe is more important than the personnel. Now that's one business that's emerged, which is what I call a sentimental business. If those bands decide that maybe new music is not as important, then more power to them. What we're dealing with is the stamp that it's an oldies act put on by a bunch of people who are not fans of the band, or not they have no relativity to what the Pumpkins actually meant to a Pumpkins fan. To the casual fan who maybe bought a couple of those albums, the Pumpkins were just another band from the 90s who passed through that time like a comet. And I like those 5 or 7 songs. But to a Pumpkins fan, the Pumpkins meant a lot more. So by rekindling the spirit of what the Pumpkins means, we see this resurgence. But yet we have to deal with this mentality like, well, why are you guys being so difficult? And I go, well, when wasn't I difficult? When wasn't this franchise about that? So I would akin it to bands are becoming almost more like sports franchises, right? Like, Bears and the Vikings are in the same division. Vikings traditionally have a certain kind of brand of football. Randy Moss years, it was about throwing it deep. Bears deep. It's like we're a certain type of franchise. And so I think the future of all bands is, and ultimately will be, what does your franchise represent? Because you cannot ride the music business on the wave that it's at, because it's all predicated to be anti-artist. The music business is set up to find somebody, hey, you're a star, you got 4 or 5 years in you, let me bleed you dry, get the fuck out of here. I made my money, go on. You can go play your hits somewhere else. That's the old business. The new business is like, hey, to create any name, you can say something, hey, do you know Kellogg's? And anybody in this room knows what Kellogg's means. Can you imagine the amount of money and energy it took to create a name? To create a name from scratch is almost impossible. Impossible. So we look at it, it's like, okay, well, what does this franchise represent? Independence of spirit, certain type of music, certain type of mentality, epic, whatever. Whatever that means to you, that's why you're here, right? But we have to constantly deal with the old mentality that says, no, you can't be that. And I keep thinking, but why? And I said this yesterday. When we look around at the other bands, and I'm talking about bands in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, we're not scared of anybody. It's not like we're sitting there going, oh man, those guys are so much better than us. We're like, we can hang, we can play, and we can draw from whatever source we want to draw from. So the legacy of the band, I think, will be, does the franchise mean something? Does the legacy mean something in its totality? Not does, between 92 and 96, it was pretty cool. The rest of it was kind of like that. Fuck all that. Why does it have to be that way? The business isn't there to support it anymore. And the fans are evolving to a place where they're going, hey, I look around and I like the Beatles better than all those other bands still. The Beatles were the biggest selling band a couple years ago of the year. Why? Because the music's still better than pretty much every other band. So if you want to buy the DVD and the mug and the t-shirt, more power to you. Because I don't see anybody coming along contemporary that's really getting it done. We should be redundant. We should be not able to play. We should not be able to draw a crowd beyond just play your old songs. So we're really fighting upstream against something. But if we can do it, then it breaks someone into a much deeper ocean, which is about music, which is what it was about from the beginning, and not all this other horseshit. So one more, okay. Terry, please.
Hi, I wanted to ask what we can do potentially to help make more diverse on
Well, I did a conference last year, the tech conference at South by Southwest, and that kind of question came up. And what I would say is that the fan-artist relationship, which is essentially, the labels exploit the bands and put the bands in the position of exploiting the fans. People are becoming too savvy for that. Okay? So the band's got to get out of the exploitation business, both being exploited by the labels and then exploiting the fans. And then the relationship can be a holistic one. Just like if you have your favorite restaurant, hey Bob,